possibility.
Well, like you mentioned, the surface area is great. Yeah.
Regular board meeting to order for January 25th. It's just 6:30. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. If we have any guests in the audience, I just want to mention that on item 4, we have a public open forum on the agenda. So if you would like to address the board, you could do it at that time. So with that, then, Tori, do you want to do a roll call vote for the attendance?
All right, Manager Baki,
I am here.
Manager Taves,
Here.
Manager Lowe,
Here.
President Schmaltz,
Here?
Manager Anderson. Here.
Okay, so we have a full quorum then, so let's proceed. The second item is setting of the meeting agenda. Are there any changes or corrections or additions? I do have one. If we have time, I'd like to add and get to it. It would be the update on our outreach program for the surface or shoreline restoration, which would be under old business, and Beth would be covering that. Any other additions or corrections?
No corrections, but I would like to postpone the minutes until next meeting. I wanted to review the tape. We have trouble getting that for me to open this morning, so.
That would be on the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, man. We'll skip that then. So with those two changes, I'd like to call for a motion to accept the meeting agenda as amended by our comments.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Manager Anderson. Do we have a second? I will second that. So then, Cory, would you please do a roll call vote again?
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. We'll skip the consent agenda based upon the amendment of the agenda, and we'll move on to the public open forum. At this time, I'll declare the public open forum open. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Can I ask one more time? Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Okay, hearing none, then I'll declare that the public open forum is closed. And we'll move on then to item 5, which is the Citizen Advisory Committee update.
Mr. President, managers, we've got Aiden Reed here this evening, so he'll provide that update. Go ahead, Aiden, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, managers. Provided attached are the notes from our Citizen Advisory Committee on the 16th. A couple highlights is that we did look at the board's meeting calendar for the year to align some of the CAC upcoming agenda items with matters and reports that the board will be reviewing. Then we did get kind of an early view of the cumulative shoreline inventory data. So the CAC had some good comments on that, on how to make that data and information more presentable to members of the public and lake associations. And I believe we'll be presenting that data next month as well to the Board of Managers.
Okay, any comments or questions for Aiden? Aiden, I just had one question. I noticed that the CAC seems to be very interested in learning more about what we're doing here. In fact, they asked in many cases to be invited to some of these meetings in item 2 on your agenda. They're aware that these are all published meetings, so they can go on the website, and if they see something on the agenda, I believe they're welcome to attend. Isn't that correct, Minister? Of course, it's a public meeting. So you might want to remind them that. But the other thing I was thinking is that I found the administrator's report to be very helpful. Do they get that automatically? Do we mail that to them or not?
That's an excellent point. The older members certainly are aware, and topics that come up at the board often then are discussed at the meetings. Newer members likely are they're not on the email list that specifically gets the agendas, and so I'll make sure that they're added to the list. They are aware that the meetings are public. And yes, you're correct. They certainly expressed some more interest in the goings-ons of the board and becoming a little bit more involved, or at least being made more aware of kind of the administrative elements of the district. And so I appreciate that enthusiasm, and we're working hard to foster that.
Right. And the other thing is that the administrator's report, I think, is very informative. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes to read. Would there be any reason why we wouldn't want to send them a copy each month, Mike? Or I ask the board if they're not getting it now, which it sounds like they're not.
Well, I'll just work with Aiden to make sure all the members are on the distribution list.
Okay, that would be great.
That'd be one. I'll get the full board package just like everybody else. We have, I don't know, 150 or some people on the distribution list, I think, some large.
Yeah.
So, but then separately, if Aiden, you can ask them if they want it sent out with the meeting agenda that Aiden puts out all the time anyway.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, good. Thanks, Aiden, for the report. Appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is aquatic invasive species update, and the first one on the list would be AAS watercraft inspection reports.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Hi, Mr. President and managers. So at the December 20th regular board meeting, we brought the AIS and watercraft inspection urine reports. We just wanted to give folks a little bit of time to digest all that information. And today we're looking to potentially have those reports approved. The only changes that have occurred since that meeting were a minor addition to the AIS urine report, where we added a couple graphs just detailing more of the partner contributions and expenses on some of the Forest Lake activities. And then for the watercraft inspection report, there was a slight change in the total number of hours of watercraft inspections that were worked in the district. I ended up actually reaching out to the DNR to verify that my numbers based off of their timesheets that they send me are accurate. And they came back and they said about 70 hours of what was in the timesheet was drive time. So I subtracted that from the total to make the report as accurate as possible of what was actually worked in the district. So you'll notice a slightly reduced overall total, but beside those two changes, the reports are exactly the same.
Okay, thank you. I think everyone's had a chance to review this a number of times, so unless there's any questions, I would entertain a motion to accept the program year-end summary, both for
I'll
the
make-
AIS and for the watercraft.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 Aquatic Invasive Species Program Year-End Summary and the Watercraft Inspection Program Year-End Report.
Thank you, Manager Baki. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, Manager Anderson beat you to it, Doug, so we'll give it to Manager Anderson. And then Tori, if you want to do the roll call vote, thank you.
Awesome. Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to item B, the 2023 Blue Water Science reports, and we have Steve McComas as our guest tonight to go through some of these reports. Steve, we have a lot of reports here, and most of us have seen these a couple times and so forth. So what I would encourage you to do, just if we could just kind of focus on, as we go into the new year, if you just kind of remind us about if everything was on track, just basically say we're on track. If there's something that's different that we should be aware of, and remind us going into next year, maybe make a special notice and maybe cover the details on it.
Okay.
And then, of course, if any members have questions on the reports, we could certainly entertain that also.
Sure. Am I muted right now or am I live?
You are live.
Okay, well, good. Well then, yes, there's a bunch of slides. I'll go through them quickly
Good,
and we'll see what happens.
okay.
And so we're,
Just tell me when to scroll.
okay, let's go to the next one.
Awesome, thank you.
That sounds great. These are the lakes. We have some curlyleaf and some milfoil and some flowering rush. Bone, Comfort, Moody, Shields, and there might be one more down there, Forest. All right, well, let's go to the Bone Lake. Bone Lake, last year we looked at curlyleaf pondweed and we didn't find enough curlyleaf to really treat. It was, what was present there was light growth. Oops, we go back maybe a
Sorry.
slide or so. There, that's one.
They're a little slow.
Yeah, look at that. We only, those green dots, not much curlyleaf, it's sparse, it's spread out, and was not really a problem in May. And we were thinking, well, let's not treat. We came back in June to assess that, and sure enough, our predictions were right. We didn't do any treatment. You can see that there was only a few spots of curlyleaf that we did find. And at that time, which was peak abundance time, it was low growth, light growth. So we're good on curlyleaf. And then after that, here's a hotspot map, we call it. We haven't really treated curlyleaf in a few years, but when we have treated curlyleaf, it's been in that south end and in that northeast end. So those are all the treatment areas. You can see that there's some persistent areas that we keep on checking, but you can see too that it varies from year to year. So those hotspot maps are kind of interesting. But at the same time, if we were just to treat based on, the year before, so we might be off. So that's why it's good to delineate every year. Well, there's also milfoil in Bone Lake. And
What are you guys gonna do about the tunnel Jews, the sewer Jews that are building tunnels under the synagogue?
Stop them. Guys, these are the same people that came
They're
to.
raping children. What are we going to do? Babies are dying of herpes.
Mute them again.
okay.
You're going to mute us, but
But you're gonna let rabbis suck baby?
This is what
they're
happened.
orally molesting 8-day-old baby boys.
Stay on it.
They're
I'm sorry.
giving them herpes and they're dying.
Can we kick them out, Emily?
That's racist.
Yes, I'm working on this. This hasn't happened to us before. One
Oy
moment.
vey, don't kick. I'm a Jewish supremacist.
I apologize. We'll work with Mark to find out. Todd, we're in our board meeting. And some folks have hijacked our Zoom call to do the racist and stuff. Is there anything else we can do? Okay. Have they been removed, Emily?
Looks like it.
Yes, I'm working on it. There's kind of a report that you need to fill out. So
Thank you so much. We'll need to work with you.
Bill Farber.
I was gonna write a letter to the board asking to prepare for this, but I never thought they would bother us being so small. And they took over city council for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Racist and everything else, bad.
Where are they? Do you know where they are talking?
Must be local or something, I don't know.
Okay,
It sounds like
okay,
kids.
okay. I think we've
Sounds
got
like
it figured out.
kids, but-
Okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you. Bye-bye. We will work with Rymark and some other folks to see what we can do. That's what happened at the Forest Lake City Council meeting recently, and we apologize.
Yeah, I was gonna send a note asking you what we could do to prevent it, but I thought they're too small, they won't bother with us.
Well, and this is
What I was thinking, they was desperate to come to a
I
small.
mean, it's not a
meeting
very
like
big
this.
audience. So they must have other things to do, that be better than that, but. Okay, so we're okay to go ahead then? Thanks, Beth, for getting on top of that.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily. Okay, Steve, sorry for the interruption.
No problem. I guess we'll probably just go back to this topic. Irrigation water milfoil. Anyway, look what happened in Bone Lake. Irrigation water milfoil, we had light growth. Now, we had a few more dots in June, so it was starting to grow, but really, again, sparse, separate, and light growth. So we said, let's not treat. We came back in July, which is kind of peak milfoil growth. Usually most years, nothing happened. There wasn't much milfoil present in Bone Lake. So milfoil in 2023 was pretty much under control, light growth only. And here's the hot spot. So in the past, we certainly have had some milfoil. That's on the next slide. And you can see again that the north end is has had the most milfoil in the past. That's about a 6-7 year period. We put all the milfoil we found, just put it on the map. So that's a number of years. North side, south side, we're starting to see a little bit of creep on the west side there, mid-lake west side, so we're tracking that. Well, also what we did for Bone Lake is we did a point intercept survey, which is every 5 years we do this grid survey. It's a very systematic survey, and that's on the next slide, just to show an example of the map that we found. Well, what happens is that on this grid, we look at every plant on these points. We mark the plants, we identify them, so we have all these plant maps. So, but this one map characterizes kind of the plant community. It gives us a number of species we find per site. There's not a lot of diversity, but some of those sites, we had up to four species per point. The species diversity is moderate. Could be worse. I mean, it could be, 1 or 2 species. It could be better, but it's fairly typical of our kind of our rural country lakes. Not really a metro lake. So that's our point intercept. So, we found plants growing down to 9 feet of water depth. And that's been about the same. Maybe it's gone a little bit deeper since the last time we did it 5 years ago. Well, one thing we found in Bone Lake this year too was zebra mussel. Now back in 2019, first time we found zebra mussel, we did a very extensive and comprehensive treatment around the public access area, wondering if we didn't get them. We hadn't seen zebra mussels for a couple of years. This year, 2023, we were collecting some plants, and that's on the next slide. So that was basically the treatment area that we did in 2019. This year, in 2023, that little red dot up there at the northeast end, that little red dot, we were collecting naiads because we saw a species, we weren't quite sure what it was. So we brought it back to the lab to ID it. And then in the lab, Joe Stuckert said, hey, look, there's a zebra mussel on here. It wasn't very big, but it was over there. So they are probably in the lake at very low densities, but are probably present. Yeah, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. President, managers. Steve, so back, I think like in 2018, I was out on the northeast part of Bone Lake, and before I move too far away, I just wanna check, so, Burl, that used to live up there, mentioned that she had me come out because there was a lot of plant growth. And there was EWO in particular, and I know from your work that, it liked nitrogen, so, and I mentioned that, and then she was the one that tipped me off that, oh, there used to be an old farm over here. And that's how that whole northeast project. I'm curious to know if we're seeing some change in the plant community, and it looks like from the previous graph, if that was the case,
Yeah,
as a result potentially of that project, so, so sort of a correlation that we can make regarding the, the impact that our projects make.
well, especially milfoil is susceptible to nitrogen. And if we cut down the nitrogen inputs, it could really well have an impact on milfoil, because we haven't seen milfoil up there to treat now in a few years. So
That was the objective. It's nice. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure,
That's
because it's from the
interesting.
previous.
I didn't know that.
In terms of the plant species too, it looks like, from that map that you were seeing.
Yes, there is some,
more
that
diversity.
had higher diversity on that end of the lake. Those triangles indicated 2 or 3 species per point, whereas other parts along the lake, it's 1 to 2 species per site. So more diversity, better fish habitat, better water quality. So that's nice. No, unfortunately, nitrogen didn't have much impact on zebra mussels though, so we'll be tracking that. Every time we do a plant survey, if we see a zebra mussel on a plant, we're tracking it. And then we can actually get a distribution map as time goes on. Well, so there's a summary slide here. The next slide is Bone Lake summary slide. And it's curlyleaf milfoil and that adult zebra mussel. Well, next up, Comfort Lake. And curlyleaf has been interesting in Comfort Lake, as Jackie knows.
It will never die.
It has never died, but it has been worse.
Yes.
It was present in April, but light growth, we were predicting that it wouldn't be much of an impact by the time it was gonna be reaching peak growth in June. So we didn't recommend a treatment. There was no treatment. We came back to check, and that's that other map there on the right, the June 2nd map. Yes, there was a little bit more milk or a little bit more curlyleaf than usual, but mostly at light growth and non-nuisance conditions. So that's something to keep tracking. And we'll see what maybe happens in the near future. Is it on a kind of an upward trend, or was last year kind of a little blip? So that's the question. Well, next up is milfoil in Comfort Lake. And we did a couple surveys out there. And we started in April. I don't think there was much.
Sorry, my mouse is frozen.
No problem. So there's a few sites even in April of milfoil. So that was one delineation, but not enough to really treat, or you remember we did that whole lake treatment in 2022. So far so good. We came back in June. There was a little bit more milfoil in June. That's the middle map there. And then by August, there was a little bit more milfoil, mostly light growth, but even light growth in 2 or 3 feet of water, it can hit the surface and look a little bit, have some recreational impacts. So in August, we had a little bit more milfoil, and then there was some spot treatment done in September 19th, treated a couple acres. So we'll see if that doesn't knock it back and maybe get some more control.
And that was done with Chisago County grant dollars,
Good.
not with the district.
Oh, nice. So that's pretty typical of Floridone. So we had pretty good control for 1 year plus, a couple of acres of treatment. And that will be interesting to see if that doesn't maybe contain or control milfoil, get us another year of not much treatment. We've treated over the years 0.5 up to 15 acres. So it was time. Floridone was an okay idea. And we did get, I'm sure this June, July was in pretty good shape, a lot different. So good deal. If we look at the next map, you can see that over time, over the last few years, since 2014, actually, milfoil has been starting to grow around the lake for the most part. North side, south side, east and west. those are all the milfoil, moderate to heavy growth. We did not put in the light growth of milfoil. So those are some of the areas that we haven't seen milfoil in the past.
Just a question, why did you put in the light? I wondered about that when I was going through the report. All the others have it, ours didn't.
Oh, no, the light growth, no, we're all, usually the hotspot maps are for the growth that's either treated
Okay,
in the polygons. And what we thought is we'd put in all the milfoil, the moderate to heavy growth. Sometimes that can be considered for treatment.
okay,
The light growth, yeah, we could certainly do that, but we didn't do it here.
Yeah, okay.
Well, then there's a summary slide next, but it's the curly milfoil. And if we see zebra mussels, we know them. Here is the next, oh, I'm sorry, we have this map here. We did a point intercept survey in June. And here are the results. We had plants growing up to about 8 feet of water depth. And we noticed some at 9 feet, but not necessarily on our points. So plant growth is also about 9 feet, maximum depth. And that's a little bit of an improvement compared to past surveys. Growing a little bit deeper, maybe water quality is a little bit better. The species per point, the kind of species richness map, we had a couple of sites up to 5 species per point. So that's a good, that's a little bit better than Bone Lake, and that's a fair to moderate species diversity in Comfort Lake. And that was that point intercept survey. We do that about every 5 years, very comprehensive. Now, and then there's this kind of a summary slide next. So we'll be tracking that this year and see what happens. So right out of the chute, we can go and talk about weather conditions, how that might affect plants, but maybe save that for questions. But the next lake up then, Moody Lake. Typically, we've been looking at curly poundweed in Moody Lake and doing that with a point intercept survey. And in this case, we had some curlyleaf, mostly light growth in April. We did not treat. And for good news, bad news, there was some heavy curlyleaf growth by the time we got into June. But you can see it was mostly very near shore area, shallow water, and kind of along that west side. That's where we had a couple red dots. So we had some curlyleaf in Moody Lake. Should we have treated it? Possibly. But again, there's no homes there for the most part, and it wasn't a recreational nuisance. So we'll take a look at that. It looks like curlyleaf might be on a little bit on the upswing in Moody Lake. The next slide then is Shields Lake. That's also like there's no milfoil on these lakes, but there's curlyleaf. Now, Shields Lake has been producing some pretty heavy growth of curlyleaf. And in April, we found enough curlyleaf there to treat at least 3 acres. And what we're finding is that if you treat 3 acres, right around 3.5 acres, that's about 15% of the littoral zone, and you get whole lake control. And so we treated about 3 acres, and that's a 15%. That's the maximum we can treat under DNR rules. And we went back and checked in June, which is about peak curlyleaf growth. We had the curlyleaf was starting to die back, and we did not have any heavy growth. So it is, we get a whole lake kind of a treatment when we treat 3 acres of herbicide in Shields Lake, and good overall curlyleaf management using that approach. Well, next up, Forest Lake. Forest Lake has a few slides here. Curlyleaf has been, for decades, curlyleaf has been quite the popular plant in the lake early season. This year, we're going around the whole entire shoreline doing some meander survey. We came up with 61 acres. That's about moderate treatment acreages. Some years it's been a little bit less, some years it's been up to 100, 120. So it's still there. We went back and so we treated 61 acres, came back and assessed in June, had pretty good control. Not 100% control, but the good news is there wasn't much curlyleaf growing outside the areas that we had delineated. All those little black dots are survey points. So within the treatment area, we had mostly good control. So that's positive. The next slide is the hotspot map. You can see that over the years, about 12 years, last 12 years. It varies from year to year, but it's been pretty much around most of the shoreline, except for that one stretch in First Lake on that east side. But other than that, out to about 10, 12 feet of water, we've had some treatable curlew. Not every year, but you can see that the pattern is, it can be almost any place along the shoreline.
Are you talking about that cluster, right where that peninsula comes out? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I was talking kind of about this right here where there's not much treatment, but right here, yes, look at that. About every year and also because that's a bottleneck, you know, kind of a throat point, we want to make sure that that's clear.
I was really talking about that cluster right on the point where Agua building is.
Oh,
there,
right
there,
here, yeah, look at that.
That's a mess.
Yep,
It
that
stays
is,
there most of the time in the summer, so, you know, is there anything to do about that?
long
Anything
term,
more? Yeah.
that's a good question. Boy, we have not been able to find any good long-term curlew controls. It's been pretty much annual control. At one point, we were working with some iron. We were putting iron in the sediments, and iron seemed to inhibit curlew growth. But the guy we were getting iron from switched his iron source, and when we used it in Rush Lake, did a very extensive survey or project, we didn't get good curlew control, so we kind of abandoned the use of iron. We go back to the original source, we might have some better long-term control. We were using iron filings in half a dozen lakes. Oh, boy. We got 5-10 years long-term control.
Mr. President. Well, I'm just kind of curious if there's something, you know, potential research component on the east side, why it's not growing there. And one is that I know we have an iron hand sand filter over there that was put in quite a few years ago, certainly, maybe about the beginning of this time frame.
Is that right?
Yes, one of the earliest ones. The discharges out there. I don't know, but you remember also on Spring Lake, that fair chloride system, there was never any curlew pondweed in the discharge area from that treatment facility.
And to follow up on that, Mike, they did some pond enhancement to get better trapping efficiency of the iron. As soon as they did that, curlew started showing up again in that area. So, but with that ferric chloride, that iron, there's something, iron has been known to inhibit curlew pondweed growth. That's interesting about that.
Yeah, maybe we can talk to Masek about doing something on that east side of First Lake to find out why.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that really jumps out. I mean, the sediments are not much different. There must be something else that's inhibiting.
Maybe residents are putting something on.
Anyway, the next chart shows a table of kind of our milfoil and curlew treatment over the years. One thing too, to go down there in 2023, look at the milfoil. We're gonna talk about milfoil next. It's, we had a big blast of milfoil treatment for a couple of years, and now in the last 3 years, it's been 8 acres, 20 acres, 22 acres, and 8 acres. So less than what we've done in the past. You can see the kind of the range of curlew as well. Well, so let's go talk about milfoil. First came into the lake in 2015, hit it pretty hard, pretty aggressively. And so far, to a large extent, have kept it in that first lake, a little bit leaking into the second lake. The next slide then takes us to 2023. And what we have here is our delineation in June. And a lot of black dots, which means no milfoil. And so based on that, at that point there, we didn't treat. So then we came back and did another delineation back in August. Found a little bit of milfoil. And we circled up some areas, and there was some treatment. There was treatment in August 18th, I think it was, 8.41 acres. And then we came back, we didn't find any milfoil in September, October. Here's the hotspot map. You can see that over the years where all the treatments have been, which is usually moderate to heavy growth, primarily in our first lake, leaking a little bit into second lake, nothing in third lake yet. That's a real success story to keep it contained, so to speak, in those first two basins, save some money too. So there is some advantage to being aggressive with milfoil, especially in that second lake. Okay, well, next slide is, again, just that summary table of herbicide applications. And the next slide is our slide of our point intercept survey. Again, this was every 5 years or so, we do this point intercept survey. Now, in Forest Lake, we have a little bit more diversity with the plants. Up to about, what is that? Is that 8 or 9 species down there? We've had a couple sites. This is excellent diversity. When you have this number of plants per site, and overall, there's a good 18 to 20 species of plants. So Forest Lake has a good aquatic plant diversity. And some of it, unfortunately, is a bit heavy growth. Some of the heavy growth in Forest Lake is in fact native plants. Northern milfoil native plant is pretty heavy.
And basin too, the middle basin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And starry, not starry stonework, but water stargrass has also been a big factor. So that was a interesting survey. The plants are growing out a little bit deeper than they have been in the past. They're only by a few feet. I think they're up to about 13, 14 feet.
What were they before? I can remember the weed line being around 6 to 8. But
6 to 8 feet was the maximum, was the peak growth, and then after that, you might have had some growth up about 10 feet, 11 feet. So we're out a couple feet more.
Okay.
Well, the plant that's been kind of a challenge has been flowering rush, and that's next. So we have it at we found it now over the years, going back to 2014, found it at 459 sites. However, we're tracking these little bunches.
Yeah, I'm working a lot of feedback.
I'm sorry, let's turn this off.
I apologize for that.
No, I apologize, I didn't need this on, yeah.
well, it's nice to hear you say it twice.
Jeez.
That's so close together.
Mr. President, I'll just,
We're not gonna charge us extra for that, are you?
I'm just turning off the whole phone. Anyway. But look at, this is better. I'm sorry. I didn't know if I was working on this microphone.
Well, I can't hear, so it didn't bother me.
Anyway, look at this farm rush. Now, some of these, we say 459 sites, but like this site right there on the left, that's 2 points. We have two kind of groupings there. So, and that 459 sites, but it's only about probably not much more than 8-9 acres total. Also, what's happening in these because the water clarity is improving, maybe because of zebra mussels. Look at that picture on the right. That's Sagittaria, a native plant. We're finding that plant starting to become a lot more common as well. It looks a lot like flowering rush. So some of our flowering rush sites might be confused with, or by lake residents, with some Sagittaria as well. So the Sagittaria has that little white flower, that's pretty distinctive, so that helps. Otherwise, you gotta rip it up, look at the roots sometimes, because they're three sides. Both of these plant species have 3-sided leaves. But anyway, so the next slide shows our first one of our surveys. We did 5 treatments this year, off and on, and various acreages. Total acreage was only about 8-9 acres. But you can see that all those little dots are a little bit, they're not to scale, but we had a number of sites that were treated by hand. We haven't done much open area treatment. We did maybe about 3 acres where we had more than just a spot treatment. We kind of treated a large area. So it's scattered and has some dense spots. And we look at the next slide, over time, we're still treating less flowering rush in the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years than we did in when we first started out, where it was like 8-9 acres. That's on the next slide. That's just a graph they're showing, maybe not a graph yet, maybe one more slide here. It shows, well, let's go back just for a second to that. That's the, those are the 5 treatments. I'm sorry, I was off, I was off the slide. So those are the 5 treatment dates, and there's the map. That's the map from September. That's late September. We still had some, the greens and the yellows are pretty light growth. I mean, 100 square feet, 10 to 100 square feet. I mean, we have 100 square feet right in this room. And so those, some of those light growth patches are 10 feet to 100 square feet. And so, again, that's not the scale, but it certainly is right in that near shore. It's in water up to about 2 or 3 feet. And this year, some of the growth was on shore. Now I should go to the kind of summary slide. And that is, we've hit it, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's my fault. That bar graph slide. You can see we had a little bit more treatment this year with flowering rush compared to maybe the last 2 years, but not nearly as much as we had back when we hit it pretty hard in 2014, even 2015. Okay, now the summary slide. And
Can you go back for just a minute?
Sure.
Yeah, in 2018, I see that note that it's so low because you did the survey earlier than the plants were
Oh,
growing,
yeah,
apparently.
right.
So what happened in 2019? Because that's not too much higher. I mean, you don't have a note there, so did you do the survey after growth?
That's a great question. The 2019 was kind of an experiment.
Mm.
The applicator, Patrick, from PLM, when he was doing a large scale acreages in Detroit Lakes, maybe 300-400 acres, they were treating, because they knew where it was, as such a perennial bed, 100% flowering rush, they were treating it before it was even emerging. And so he said, maybe we should do that here. So we were going blindly, trying to treat where we thought the flowering rush was going to be. And because we don't have much to start with, we were treating a lot of open water and it wasn't all that effective. We still had some curly growth, but we used a lot of herbicide for not very much of flowering rush. Since we've been doing the spot treatments for the next years, we've had, it's been okay. I mean, we've had pretty good control taking that approach. I think growth first.
Yeah, but it's still early in the season though, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the trick, I think, is that if you get out there early enough, you are getting down to the roots and you are stopping them from growing into that season.
Yes, you are. But however, what happens, the 459 sites,
Mhm.
on any given survey, we probably have 80 or 90 sites.
Mhm.
So what happens is, we treat once early in the year, it's resprouting. I mean, it hasn't all sprouted yet. So we'll knock down
Mhm.
the existing group, but then we have subsequently in July and August, September, we have more sprouting.
Sure.
But it doesn't sprout at every site every year. We've been tracking every point, we get a GPS point on all our flowering rush beds.
Mhm.
We know which ones are sprouting, which
Sure.
ones are kind of dormant. Yeah, right.
Mr. President, I'll just note too that from 2014 to 2019, we had above average rainfall, with 2 of those years being the highest rainfall on record. We know that wasn't a factor now, especially now going into a drought season where a lot more seed bed and other things are potentially exposed. So just different conditions for management as well, so.
That's right. So, it's a little bit of a challenge, flowering rush. We want to make sure we keep it under control. And actually, the watershed district has been doing an excellent job of getting those flower heads. This is the only population maybe in the Midwest that has that fertile seed. All the other flowering rush populations in the state are triploid, and the seeds are sterile. They do not produce any type of new growth. The seed heads and the seeds from the flowering rush in Forest Lake came in from the east. It came in with a fertile clone, and we have, so the seed heads here can produce new growth. So it's, if we can control the flowers, we have a chance at really reducing the widespread spread.
It's pretty impressive though, honestly, from where it was in 2014
Yeah.
to where it is now. So it's being managed successfully. Hopefully you can get rid of it altogether. There's still that hope. But, you know, keeping it down at those low levels for the last,
Oh, man.
you know, number of years, it's impressive since 2018, really.
Well, the watershed district has been aggressive, and we've done a couple of treatments, and I'm pretty sure if we only do one treatment a year, and we don't get those flower heads, we have a whole different story.
Mhm.
So a couple of treatments, a couple of surveys, and the staff also going out and periodically getting those seed heads before they go off, or flowers before they go with the seed. So I think that's been a good factor too. And then Mike mentioned these last couple of years of drought, we're getting flowering rush growing on land. It's quite a plant. I mean, it's semi-terrestrial. It can grow on wet soils too. So that adds to the challenge.
Yeah, Garrett's done a good job of keeping on top of the flower collection, and then the other thing is that the Lake Association and district have worked on this last year with the treatment, just walking the shoreline. So
That's right too, yeah. Getting it on the shoreline, because that's where some of the flowers could generate too. And you typically tough to get it from a boat sometimes, so they made the good decision to get out there walking. Well, that's kind of the there's one more slide, but it's kind of just a very general slide. And we're able to monitor and to manage, I think, the main AIS, milfoil curlew. And we'll try to keep the flowering rush management is evolving. We'll keep working on that and make it even more efficient. So,
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments?
President Schmaltz.
Yes, Manager Baki, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, you had a very busy 2023, to say the least. I had the opportunity to read your point intercept survey for Bowen Lake, and very detailed and rich information. I'm just wondering if you will have the opportunity to share that with the Bowen Lake Association.
Oh, sure, yeah. Manager, actually, absolutely. In fact, the district has it right here. I can send it to you, and the district can send it to you as well. It's a PDF, and we should have everything in there. It's just a click away.
For each of the lakes.
And for actually, all the lakes have our PDF, yes,
Yeah.
including Comfort,
Yeah.
Forest, Shields, Moody.
Okay, good, thank you. Anything else, Dave?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
President Schmaltz,
Yes, Doug?
this to Mr. McComas. Each time we have this presentation, I have to Google to see what the flowering rush looks like. And then the next day I'm served up with offers to buy seeds for this stuff. Is that a seed that's not going to reproduce? Is it, you know, or is this just spreading the invasive species more?
Oh, man. No, that's, there are seed sources out there. You mean like from the internet? I hope they're not selling here locally. It's it's considered to be a decorative flower. And so they're available. We should not be planting any flowering rush from seed, any place in Minnesota, especially in Forest Lake or any of the lakes in the watershed district. So if we can get that word out, that'd probably be a good idea. Unfortunately, flowering rush isn't the only AIS that's available on the internet too.
Yeah. Is there any chance that those seeds are sterile?
Probably not, because I mean, if they're selling them as seeds, the odds are that they're working with the same type of flowering rush clone that we have here in Forest Lake. And so unless it's a triploid with the genetics, those are the sterile seeds. But if you're a haploid, like we have here in Forest and a few places, a number of communities out in the East Coast, those are all fertile seeds and those are viable.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion then to accept the reports.
I will make the motion to accept the reports from the water science.
Okay, I'll second that. Tori, can you please do a roll call vote?
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Steve. The next item we have is Blue Water Science Service Agreement. Mike, did you want to cover that?
Well, Mr. President, managers, this is, agreement that we've, worked on in the past years. It's basically the same contract that we've always had, based on the anticipated, work that Mr. McComas would do. And this is, you know, a combination of things that were already in the budget and then reaffirmed, just prior to submission of this proposal.
Okay, I don't know there's any need for any questions. We've done this for many years now, so we just need someone to read the recommended motion.
All right. I will make the motion to authorize the administrator on advice of legal counsel to enter into an agreement with Blue Water Science in accordance with the January 18th, 2024 services agreement and in an amount not to exceed $27,500, and authorize the administrator to request additional services from Blue Water Science not to exceed $2,750, which is 10%, to be compensated in accordance with the 2024 service agreement.
Is there a second to that?
I will second that motion.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other additional discussion or comments?
I'd like to
Hearing-
comment, President Schmaltz. I'd just like to say for the amount of money that we are investing in Blue Water Science, we get so much good, rich information that is providing data for our decision-making and moving us forward in our individual lakes. So I really think this is money well spent.
Thank you, Manager Baki. Yeah, Steve has been a long time mentor of ours, and we've kind of grown up together, I think.
It's been a pleasure, the whole
Yeah,
trip.
so we thank you for all that support over the years, Steve. Thank you. So Troy, why don't we do a roll call vote?
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Again, thanks, Steve. Okay, the next one is the 2024 WCI Program Delegation Agreement.
President managers, so the watercraft inspection delegation agreement with the DNR is one that we've had for a long time. The district was one of the first watershed districts to really have a watercraft inspection program independent of the DNR. And so this is just a continuation of past contracts that we've had with them.
Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, if someone could read the proposed motion, we can move on.
Okay, I'll make the motion again.
I was going to do
Oh,
it.
you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Manager Schmaltz moves to authorize the district administrator on advice of legal counsel to execute the DNR delegation agreement for aquatic invasive species prevention inspection of water-related equipment, seconded by who? Who's gonna second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, Doug, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other additional discussion? Hearing none, Troy, could you do the roll call vote?
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to new business then, a joint grant application letter of support.
Yeah, Mr. President, managers, this is pretty straightforward. Aiden Reed is in the meeting here as well, if you have any particular questions. But we're just looking to provide a letter of support to the Washington Conservation District for this soil health grant that they're looking to pursue.
Okay, thank you. I'll make the motion then, before we have discussion. I move to authorize the administrator to submit a letter of support on behalf of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District for the WCD's application for the Soil Health Supplemental Staffing Grant. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Manager Anderson. Any discussion or comments or questions? Okay, hearing none then, Tori, if you would please do the roll call vote.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Beth, how long is your presentation?
It's just a quick verbal update that was just queued up in case you wanted it tonight or wanted it, there will be an official presentation on February 8th
Okay,
with slides.
so maybe good if just a few minutes then?
Oh, yes, I'll
Okay.
keep it to that, absolutely.
So then I'm gonna move on to old business and, which we added, which would be the outreach update. Beth, you wanna get that then?
Absolutely. And President Schmaltz, would you indulge me to let me introduce you? I don't believe we've introduced Adam Chelm yet, have we?
No, I haven't. Yep.
Is that okay to do now? I know
Yep,
you
that
were
was,
gonna do it at the
I
end.
I told him I was gonna bring him in when we
Okay.
got to this point, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
All right. I am so excited and Administrator Kinney, thank you for letting me introduce Adam Chelm. He joined our staff yesterday as our new education and outreach coordinator. We are now fully staffed, which is a very exciting place to be, and we have some wonderful new staff with us. Adam came to us from the Sauk River Watershed District, where he has served as their education coordinator for 17 years. He has a really robust background, particularly in workshops and native plants and shorelines. So Adam, if you're there, do you want to just kind of say hello and introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, President and managers, thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself, say hi, stop by the office. I'm there often and just trying to figure everything out and work with the other staff and find my footing. That's kind of the plan for the next few weeks.
Great, well, it's great to have you on board, Adam, and we're looking forward to your help and expertise. We've got a lot of work to be done in this area, so you've got a good, worthwhile, big challenge, so thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, yes.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
All right. Well, then, with that, I will also add that we put Adam, even though we have a robust onboarding plan for him, he was able to join Aiden today with some of our other partners as they are planning the contractor shoreline workshop that will be taking place in February. Adam has experience working in Stearns County. They have a contractor workshop for shorelines as well. And so was able to represent us with that knowledge today. So that's very exciting. This will be just a quick teaser and a taste of some of the work that we have been continuing to do in education and outreach. We've been trying to use our time well and set Adam up and the district up for great success. As you know, it's our 25th anniversary this year. And so we've been talking to the staff that we really want to kind of highlight all of our activities and look at our work through the lens of 25 years. So we will be working on some kind of branding additions so that in our communications and everything, we're going to have a little 25th anniversary icon. And so that will be unveiled soon, and we're excited for that. And we'll be using that 25th anniversary at a number of events, including this year's State of the Watershed activity. And we already have some fun ideas that we have been workshopping on how to make that a really great event. So as you know, Aiden and colleagues did a wonderful job with the shoreline inventory, and Aiden has been really busy taking those data points and translating them into information that's easily digestible, as well as putting it with recommendations and actions. He has shared that with the CAC and some initial sharing with the Bone Lake Association, and he's preparing to kind of work on that presentation to take it to the other lake associations and bring it to the board on February 8th. And I think he'll share some additional information with all of you so that you can really understand the process and the protocols that he followed we received, where he utilized a lot of the DNR practices to develop our inventory. So very excited about that. And he has also been working with Jessica Lindemeyer to develop some materials to reach out to lake property owners, to promote our programs, to promote the information that is from the shoreline inventory. And so those are kind of queued up, ready to go, and we're just working on the timing because we want them to go out just the right time so that we can promote our site visits as well. So we anticipate those postcards will go out in March. We are prepared to move that up a little bit if we continue to see this unseasonably warm weather. We've updated our tools and rules document, and right now it's just going through staff review, and it looks phenomenal, and putting in a lot of information there. It'll have multiple uses. It will be able to go, we will be able to use it for site visits. We'll be able to use it with the regulatory program and the shoreline program. So very excited about that. We're looking at our workshop schedule. As I said, we're going to be partnering to have that contractor shoreline workshop in February. We're going to be doing at least one shoreline workshop in March. And Adam and I began to talk today about what some of those other potential workshops might be, as well as community education, which are the programs that we're able to do at the library and through the community ed programs at the school district. I think one of the other really exciting things is the Bone Lake delisting. And we're so appreciative to the Lake Association for their commitment to collaborate with us on that celebration. We are hoping to have our kickoff meeting in February or early March. And shorelines again is a hot topic as a part of that. I will say too, we really want to kind of also use this event to showcase the 25 years of action that the Watershed District has had. I apologize. Comfort Lake, Forest Lake Watershed District staff were selected to present on the shoreline program at Bowser Academy and at the DNR's roundtable. There's a lot of interest around some of our programs, including the Legacy Land Payment Program. And so in addition to kind of sharing that with colleagues across the state, we're working on kind of a multimedia packet on that will include some press releases, social media information, as well as some new materials to go out to promote those programs. We've already had our first site visit of the year, and we are really excited. So I also took some notes today from Mr. McComas's presentation and looking to work in some information for property owners to remind them that they cannot plant anything in the water without a permit from the DNR, and that they should not be purchasing seeds online unless they check the species. And we've got some great native plant lists. So we will make sure that we drive that reminder home. Any questions for me tonight? Otherwise, you'll see us in 2 weeks with pictures and slides and maybe a song and dance.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions, comments?
Thanks, Matt.
Awesome. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, we're going to see it before it's launched, correct?
Right.
So
Oh,
for
yes.
For board input?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so then that moves us over to report of staff. Mike, administrator?
Outside of what's in the report, I don't think there's really anything to note. I know the other day staff went out and turned on the aerators for Shields and Moody. I did ask them to take the SON monitoring equipment out with and grab some before DO readings, and they were quite high. So I think one thing that we'll want to look at is, I mean, hopefully we don't have more winters this warm in the future. But you know, it's we'll see kind of how those progress. But I saw the St. Croix. It looks like it's opening up even. So we might see those thin ice signs floating in the water very soon here.
Okay, man, any other questions or any questions for Mike? Just while I want to mention that, again, I think I mentioned this earlier in the meeting, but the administrative report is quite a helpful tool, I think, for all the board, and I think it's pretty easy not to look at it because it comes out late. But if you go through this, the format has been simplified a lot, and it's very bullet oriented, and it takes about 4 or 5 minutes to go through, and you can't help but get up to date on what's happening if you take a look at this before each meeting.
President Schmaltz,
Yes, Manager Baki, go ahead.
I just have a question for Mr. Kinney. I noticed that the $500,000 grant was approved for the South Wetland acquisition. Can you kind of give us an update as to where we are in closing the deal?
Yeah, so the landowner was not willing to negotiate on his previous ask. He wants 100,000 more than what the appraised value is, so, which we will not discuss. But that being said, he was articulating that the value should be higher because the appraisal, because of the changes in the market since the appraisal was done in June. So we've resubmitted, signed an amended agreement with the appraiser to take a look to see what the market has been over the 6 months to see if there's any adjustment. We'll receive that the end of January, and then we'll look to have a meeting with the landowner again as soon as practical after that. In addition, I've asked Blaine to get a hold of real estate attorney and start a process of just, what would some of the legal documents look like with that as well. We have a similar situation. Well, I know it's not similar. Well, we have another reason to be in touch with the attorney on a different property that the board has already discussed here recently.
Is that the same attorney through Chuck that you used in the past?
Correct,
Okay.
Alex.
One other quick question regarding the Access Philanthropy. You said staff are working with this group. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so they've done an interview, I think, with 2 of the board members, correct?
Yes.
So, so they're, I think right now we're on track for them to come maybe the 2nd meeting in February to basically discuss some strategy and overall what that would look like. So Emily's just confirming that's going to be the case. So we'll have the material and work back at that time, but right now they would help facilitate the district with respect to process for going out and asking for funds and assisting with potentially, who in the realm of nonprofit or of donors would potentially, locally and in the broader scheme of the world that we might want to touch base with.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, with no other questions, we'll move on then to EOR's report. Greg? Oh, okay, Ann's gonna do it. Okay, great.
Hi, Mr. President, managers. I'm going to be giving the engineer report. We have 2 active construction projects going on. The first is WJD 6. They're actively working this week to excavate the wetland before the anticipated thaw. So they are anticipating to be 90 to 95% done with that excavation by the end of the week. They are utilizing some mats to drive over because of the shallower frost depth than was anticipated around this time of year, so that they're able to use those mats to navigate with their equipment. And then there'll be some additional touch-ups and restoration that they'll be doing in the spring. For the Moody Capstone project, there are 2 different excavation areas. This week, they're finishing up the excavation area around the round barn. And then next week, they're anticipating moving on to the Taves property. And they will be utilizing those mats as well. We are coordinating and planning with Blaine on the monitoring plan for next year. And so that will be in a future meeting. And we also, district staff and Greg are going to be meeting with the city of Wyoming on Monday to discuss future road projects and how the permits for those and looking for opportunities where collaboration and additional stormwater practices might be available.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ann. Any questions or comments? Again, welcome aboard. It's good to see you again. So
yes,
good
to see you too.
Okay. Then moving on to Smith Partners. Chuck?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. And then moving on to report of treasurer.
Okay, thank you. This is the report for end of year, basically, December. We had revenue of $766,497.99. 94% of that was the second half of our levy of $723,780. And then another month of $5,000 interest from our new banking relationship from the first of the year. So that was good. We had expenses of $176,804.52. So those are the bills that need to be paid. And we have cash on hand with all of our bank accounts of $1.6 million, just a little more than that. I can read the actual amount, but you see it in front of you on your report. $1,619,303.99.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to pay the bills, right?
Yes, and we do need to do a transfer of $220,300 to cover future payrolls and other items that might come up between now and the next meeting at the end of February. So yes, I will make a motion then to accept the treasurer's report and transfer and pay the bills.
Okay, thanks for the motion. Do we have a second? I'll second that motion. So we have a motion and second. And before we actually move on to that vote, we have to sign checks tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll come in early.
Yep.
Okay. Tori, will you be in around 8:30 or 9?
Yep.
Okay. All right. With that, then let's if we could do a roll call vote to approve the paying of the bills.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
President Schmaltz.
Aye.
Manager Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We pay the bills for the month. Thank you. Okay, moving on then to the last topic, second to last topic, summary and approval of board direction. Chuck, do we have anything that was noteworthy?
We have a report of officers and managers.
Oh, I skipped over that. You, thank you. Report of officers and managers. Chris, you want to go first?
I do not have anything to report.
Okay, I'll go next. I don't have anything to report either. Manager Anderson?
Yes, I just wanted to give a brief update of the Lower St. Croix meeting.
Oh,
And
yes.
I did bring up the concerns that we all had and asked that they provide detail on the submission from the Washington Conservation District to alter or plan amendment, basically, so that the Lower St. Croix and Lake St. Croix can be designated as water bodies within our watershed, Lower St. Croix watershed, that can receive attention. And I was very confused by that when I read it, because the whole structure of this partnership is based on the Lower St. Croix and the improvement of the Lower St. Croix, which affects, of course, Lake St. Croix. And so I asked for an explanation in writing on what the thought process was for this, because our money, even though it sounds like a lot, and this year will be the most that we've ever had, a little bit, close to 2 million, it's almost 2.5 million. So it's about $1 million more than we've been working with in the past, but it's still not enough for a watershed this size. And I was concerned that they will start working directly on the on the closest areas to the lake and the river. And that really undercuts all the work that we've laid out in the plan, and that is to treat all of the upper inputs for the lake and the river system before we actually treat in the water or excuse me, in those two bodies or close to those shorelines, unless it's egregious. But if there's a upstream input, we want to take that and work our way down toward the end. So we will hopefully get that. The other one that I asked for clarification on was the acceptance of the additional monies that we got, $167,000 from the excess monies that Bowser ended up with for this season, or this 2-year biennium is what I mean, not 2004 to 5. And the steering committee was asking for the partners to approve their allocating those funds and not running it through the process that we worked so hard to develop and implemented last year. So anything below 50,000 is handled by the staff, steering committee and the staff. Anything over comes to the policy committee for review. And so I saw that as a breach in this new process and asked for clarification on that. And so at the next, even if we have to hold a special meeting before that money is accepted, we need to see that definition. All the partners need it. So I'll keep watching that closely, working with Mike, of course, and Emily with their contacts with Lower St. Croix, but it's something we need to be mindful of.
Thank you, Manager Anderson. Any questions? Okay, Doug or Dave, any comment on your reports? Doug, go first.
Yes, it was fun to hear Ann's report. I ran down quickly this morning down to 97 to the JD6 project to see that equipment as they're firing up with those lights blazing in the fog. There were at least 5, maybe 6 trucks lined up on the road with their lights flashing. It was quite an impressive sight. And coming back here, they have moved copious amounts of material over there at the Moody Barn already. It's amazing how quickly they can move. So it's fun to see that stuff in action. Things are really happening here right now. Thank you. Oh, and also the thin ice, maybe Mike was saying it, but I was breaking up what I was hearing. But the thin ice signs went out on the lake today, and so I'm assuming the aerator will be coming on shortly too.
Thank you. Dave?
I have nothing to report other than that's an impressive sign you've got in your front yard, Doug. I like that.
I can't claim credit.
Thank you. Chuck, summary and approval of board direction.
Mr. Chair, managers, just 2 items. One is that staff will make sure CAC members get the board meeting agenda and full board packet, including the administrator's report. And then Steve McComas will provide a PDF of his report to be available to go to the Lake Associations.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is administrator's review, and we'll probably convene to close session on that. So we'll do that as soon as we clear the room and can do a closed session.
Yes, that's my request. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna leave my laptop here.
Can you stop the recording,
Oh,
please?
yeah.
And then